crisis in the Middle East. A Hezbollah missile intercepted near Israel's economic center of Tel Aviv. Well, it's the first fired by the militant group to reach close to the city. Israel and Hezbollah are trading waves of strikes as their conflict escalates, forcing thousands in Lebanon to flee. Joining us now to discuss all things surrounding that is foreign policy expert Mr. Harley Lippman, back here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, sir.
Always good to see you as well.
So let's jump right into this. Obviously, Israel has vowed to, in essence, speed up its offensive operations against Hezbollah without reprieve. And when that's said, a lot of folks are raising eyebrows, in essence saying, what exactly is Israel saying? What's your take on this, sir?
Well, what Israel is saying is that they can't have another October 7th on the northern border where Hezbollah is in Lebanon. They already had that with Hamas, where they now believe up to 6,000 Hamas terrorist fighters came across the border and raped, murdered, burned babies, and things like that. They see if that could happen in Gaza with them, that could happen on the northern border with Israel, where Hezbollah fighters could come across the border and do the same thing to Israel that Hamas did. So they can't live with Hamas being on the border with Israel. Reason two why Israel has accelerated action against Hezbollah is because they need to decouple the conflict with Hamas from Hezbollah so they could try to strike a diplomatic solution in Gaza. And they need to be able to do something to change the equation with Hezbollah, because what has been happening is that, Hezbollah has been firing rockets into Israel since October 8th, one day after October 7th. And it has killed many people. There were 12 teenagers playing soccer that were killed by a Hezbollah rocket. And you now have about 80,000 Israeli families that had to leave their homes in northern Israel because of fear of an attack by Hezbollah. And those people have been living at friends' homes, going from home to home. They've been living in hotels. The economy has been badly hurt. These people are depressed and have been begging to go back to their homes. But the only way they can go back to their homes and have safety is Hezbollah has to be removed from the border with Israel. So that's where that is.
Yeah, obviously this has been escalating for quite some time. Israel now bucking global pressure to really de-escalate its conflict. In essence, we know that obviously a number of the world leaders participating, in the UN General Assembly meeting throughout the week. With that being said, a lot of the discussion has surrounded what is going on and what will Israel do in order to de-escalate that. Do you think it's going to happen?
No. I think that Israel will more likely escalate as they need to. And let's talk about that for a minute. So it's funny how people are worried about Israel escalating. But what is Hezbollah been doing for the last year? Firing rockets into Israel, killing civilians. Where has been the UN meeting about that? Where has been the urgency? Why are world leaders not talking about stopping that? I mean, just reverse it. You're an American. If rockets were being fired from Mexico into California, into Arizona, and other states, nonstop, don't you think that people are going to, and then the United States takes firmer action instead of just retaliating by firing rockets back, which is what Israel's been doing with Hezbollah. Hezbollah fires rockets, Israel fires it back. This is not in Israel's interest. Hezbollah is trying to wear Israel down. There are 5 fronts that Israel has in the war with Syria, Iran, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Gaza, the Houthi, Iraq. They have these terrorists and Arab nations want to wear down Israel, get people to leave Israel, saying it's no life worrying about a rocket that's going to come and hit your child in school. So that's his strategy. So Israel either is a victim and just sits there and plays the game by the enemy's rules and just retaliates back when they're attacked, But that hasn't accomplished anything. That just goes on and on. It's been going on for a year. And Israel's tried everything behind the scenes to resolve this. But Hezbollah does not want it resolved. And the perfect example of this is that there was a war previously in 2006 with Hezbollah and Israel. And after the war, the UN issued a resolution that was passed called 1701, which would require Hezbollah to move north of the Litani River, which creates a buffer zone for Israel. So Israeli citizens living in northern Israel, are much less likely to be victims of rocket attack because there's a buffer. There's a lot of space between Hezbollah and Israeli communities. So Hezbollah has not honored the UN resolution 1701 that was passed. They went right to the border of Israel, and they've been there ever since. And as I mentioned earlier, Israel sees that after October 7th, they can't take that risk. No country would take the risk that after they saw Hamas come across the border and slaughter over 1,000 Israelis, which, by the way, is the equivalent of Americans losing about 40,000 people in 9/11 Trade Center.
Harley, we'll end with this, and that is, I apologize, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know we have limited time, and I wanted to make sure we got to this last question, and that is with regard to what's now happening in Lebanon. What does that mean for what's currently taking place in Gaza? Obviously, Hamas still top of mind for many, specifically Israelis.
Well, I think that Hamas miscalculated, and Hezbollah got complacent and arrogant. Hamas thought that Hezbollah would join in a major war, which they haven't. It's been limited. And Hezbollah is unprepared. So I think for Israelis, they're hoping for a diplomatic. That's what I would say. By trying to Lebanon.
Very good, sir. Once again, Mr. Harley Lippman, foreign policy expert, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Truly appreciate your time, sir.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. We're going to take a quick break.